It was a normal afternoon when I had finally gotten my two little ones down for a nap. 2 days earlier, I was having problems waking up when I tried to sleep during nap time and at night, which I had discussed as concerns with my husband. So on this particular day I was nervous about falling asleep and decided I would just watch some TV instead. Well, I sat myself down on the couch and started watching my favorite soapbox, and next thing I knew someone was yelling at me to wake up. I kept hearing this voice telling me to wake up, "Diane, you have to wake up." When I opened my eyes and started to sit up, because I thought I had fallen asleep, I looked forward and there stood my grandmother. Now my grandmother had died when I was 3 or 4 years of age, and so, my memory of her is very slight. But there she stood in the doorway of my living room going into my kitchen, looking at me and talking to me, although she didn't move her mouth. I kept looking at her lips because that was something I had always done since I was little, was watch people's lips as they talked. Anyway, I couldn't see her lips move, and then I realized that she was talking to me through my senses. I asked her what she was doing and she told me I could come with her. I hesitated, not knowing where she was going, and then asked her, "Where are you going?" She just looked at me and then told me, "You can come on," and she started to turn away, and it looked like she was going down the hall towards my little girl's room. I knew that if I didn't get up and go with her then I would not know where to go, and I just couldn't stay where I was, so I started to get up. That's when I realized that I was not connected to my body anymore. I felt weightless and light, almost airy. I looked down at my body and it was not moving with me. Then I looked back up at Grandma to see where she was going, and she was gone. That scared me, so I knew I had better hurry and catch up with her. Next thing I knew I was high in my living room or out of it, I'm not sure. I do know that I looked back down to where I came from and there was my body. At first I thought I should be worried that I left it behind, but it looked okay, and I thought to myself that it would be okay right there on the couch. I could see the colors of my clothing and the furniture and the exact way I was laying there. It was amazing. I then went somewhere for a while. I'm not sure. I can't remember where I went. But my grandmother was not with me at that time. I was by myself. Then I came back to this floating position above myself, but at an angle. I couldn't really see myself, but I could. If you can understand that. Anyway, there were 2 people or things, spirits I think, with me. There was one on my left and one on my right side. I was told that I could stay or I could go back. As I looked down at me, it was kind of fuzzy. I was trying to decide if I wanted to go back, because I sure didn't want to leave this wonderful, peaceful, loving, and totally accepting place I was in. Then my mother and sister and my 2 little girls popped into my head, and I knew they would need me even if it meant that I would suffer most of my life. I was needed, I had to go back, I couldn't leave them without me. So at that very moment I made the decision to go back, and all of a sudden, I am in this dark place falling, faster and faster, and felt like I was being squeezed into this little tiny hole until I felt my body again. It was blacker than I have ever seen. It was darker than any night and blacker than any black could be. I almost felt frightened until I felt my body again, the weight, the pressure. My lungs hurt so badly and I didn't think I was going to make it. All of a sudden, I heard this voice yelling at me to, "Wake up, Diane, you have to wake up." It kept on and on until I finally tried to open my eyes. At that moment I remember trying to take a deep breath. It was as if I had popped back into my body and I needed to start breathing again, almost for the first time. My chest heaved and my lungs sucked the air slowly and little by little, and all of a sudden I took one big deep breath of air. It hurt so bad. I took another breath and then I opened my eyes and I realized that something was very wrong with me, but I remembered what I had experienced. I saw my grandmother and she was in a yellow flowered dress and she wanted me to come with her. I sat up on the couch and then realized that I was soaking wet, my clothes, my hair, everything. Even the couch was damp from my wetness. I gathered what senses I had and went to the phone to call my mother because my heart was racing and I just had to tell her that I went with her mother. Later, I started having more ESP signs and things started happening to me naturally and at any time, day or night. I saw murders. I saw a baby be kidnapped from a hospital not far from where I lived. I knew what people were going to say before they even came to the door to say it. I knew when someone was going to call on the phone before it rang. As the years went by, more and more started happening. In 1986, we moved to our first new home. It was an old home, but it was our first. There, after living in the home for a few months, I knew we had company. Little company. Children, I think a boy and girl, who would play in our home while we were gone, and when we'd return I'd catch them playing, by hearing them as we walked in, and then they would stop. Then in 1993 or 1994 a man came to visit me, a spirit, from back in the horse and buggy days. He put his hands on my shoulders, and I felt his warmth and love and his pain. It scared me and I jumped up and ran into the other room. I yelled at him, asking him what he wanted from me, because I had heard his footsteps often and the girls had seen his shadow at the end of their beds at night, and so had I. But my husband had never heard or seen anything. Anyway, someone had told me that if it wasn't a spirit of God and you told it to go away in his name it would, so I did. I have only had a couple more occasions where he returned to talk to me. He wanted to know why I thought he would hurt me. I was really scared now. I didn't want any more to do with this stuff. So after a while I just started ignoring everything that happened. I quit allowing my senses to recognize anything that was put forward to me. I just went on my way. Then for a while I could even use my hands to make people feel better. I could feel the heat in my hands as I touched their body to rub out a knot in their back or shoulders. Everyone in the neighborhood wanted me to give them messages. But then when I started learning more about the chi and tried to tell others, people thought I was getting weird and began to be scared of me, so I quit that too. When my mother was in the hospital very ill and dying, the spirit came to her bedside next to me. I told him he could not have her yet, that I wasn't finished with her, and he left. Day after day, she got better and better and now is living a full and pretty healthy life. Anyway, I have always felt like I was here for a reason, but now I feel like I don't know what that reason is, and I feel lost, misplaced.